It's about that time.
Stoned on Sports.
How's it going, everybody? You're tuned in to Stoned on Sports Fantasy Football. My name is Matt. Got the awesome co-host Kyle here with me today, and you are here for Waiver Wire Tuesday, and it's kind of a rough week. Despite the success that running backs have had seemingly all season, there ain't been shit for them on the wire, and quite frankly, we're not going to be touching on any of those today. But we've got quarterbacks, we've got wide receivers, we've even got a tight end for you. Sure. I know, Kyle, you and I can both appreciate a nice tight end. How in the hell are you doing, man?
Sure can.
Lions look great.
Yep, they do as well. I see we got Captain Spock and Dubo in the
What's
chat.
Up, fellas?
Welcome, gentlemen, to the show. Appreciate you joining us this evening. Yeah, it's slim pickings. All the running backs are pretty much, handcuffs or less, really. So it's tough. Buys are back this week. Steelers and the 49ers are off. So if you got Najee owners and Pickens owners and Debo owners and Purdy and stuff, you got to do some scrambling this week, I'm sure. So we also have our merch. Don't forget about that. Matt's got the hat on. I got the shirt. Just hit us up on the any of these on here, Stoned on Sports 1 or at Pick His Ass Up, and we can get one to you, Venmo us, something like that. We'll make it work. I believe Dubo's already got one now, so hopefully he's sporting it around the state of Minnesota.
That's right. We're spreading.
That's right. All right. So Tuesday, it's week 9. Crazy waivers. Like Matt said, we got 10 guys for you, maybe a couple more. We'll see what we got going on today. But first guy is quarterback Matthew Stafford with the Rams. He's been kind of a disappointment for most of the season, averaging just over 9 points per game so far. But he got his wide receivers back. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are back, and Stafford had a great game. Yeah, I had 25 of 34 throws against the Vikings for almost 280 yards, 4 touchdowns. He threw his usual pick as well, and he finished as QB5 in Week 8 with 25.8 fantasy points, his highest total since Week 1. His passing yardage was the second highest of the season, and it also marked his first multi-touchdown game. You can tell he's really hurting missing those guys. So the Stafford had 3 touchdowns going into the game. He had 4 on Sunday. So he had 1 more than he had going into the season. It's crazy. He had the 5th best passer rating, 8th best completion percentage, 2nd best passing EPA at plus 16.8. That's damn good. He clearly benefited from the return of Nacua and Kupp. The pair accounted for 12 of his completions, 157 of the yards, and 1 of his touchdown passes that Kupp grabbed. Last year, if you think back to it, in the weeks that Stafford had Kupp and Nacua both healthy, he was a borderline top 10 QB last season. And watching the game the other day, I really benefited from the O-line play of the Rams. They're not highly graded this season, but they looked real damn good and gave Stafford a lot of time. They saw the lowest QB pressure rate, just 11.8% of Stafford's dropbacks in Week 8 versus the Vikings, which is just shocking to me. The Vikings are top 3 in total pressures and number 1 in blitz rate on the season. So I think there's a lot of good reasons to believe that performance wasn't just a fluke. He was much better in the second half last season as well, and the Rams are still in it in the NFC West as well. I'd buy him now where you can. He won't give you any points with his legs, of course, but, I think he'll be among the league's passing leaders the rest of the way as long as his 2 main men are healthy. Week 9 matchups at Seattle. It's a division game. Seattle allows the 13th fewest points to quarterbacks. It doesn't get any easier for Stafford, really. The 5 weeks after, weeks 10 through 14, they face Miami, New England, Philly, New Orleans, and Buffalo. All those teams are in the top 12 and fewest points allowed to QB or better. But I think he's still a hot ad. There's a place in many leagues, most leagues, for an elite passer with 2 great, spectacular receiving options. Matchups be damned. For Week 9, he's a high-end QB2 option.
Yeah, and look, when you lose players the caliber of Puka and Cooper Kupp, obviously the offense is going to be downgraded. Tutu Atwell and Demarcus Robinson filled in admirably, but they're not on that level. And we saw what that offense can be when they're both on the field this week. And they're a team that gave Detroit a run for their money earlier in the season. They're a team that gave Detroit a run for their money in the playoffs last year. The NFC West, you've got everybody at like 500. It's anybody's division right now, including the Rams, and they went from potential sellers to
they were 1-4 after week 5.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think they're buyers just because we don't see that kind of player movement in the NFL, but they're a team with playoff aspirations, and if they make it there, they're going to be led by Stafford and that passing attack.
Absolutely. With a great play caller as well, and Sean McVay. I see we got Blue Jays in. How's it going, man? We've been doing well. Hope you've been doing well as well. Feeling like I can make a 2-for-1 upgrade. He has Kupp, DJ Moore, Reed, Coleman, and Myers. Would you package up Moore and Reed for someone like DK or any other options?
Yeah, I would do that. Jaden Reed, a lot of people were high on him coming into the season, but I don't know, I'll call him a boomer bust wide receiver too. He does get used all over the field and he's, the poor man's Debo and I get all that. DK, I think, is when he gets back from injury, part of the leading pass offense in the NFL, at least in terms of yardage, and he's the alpha receiver there. Yeah, I would absolutely do that. DJ Moore has disappointed this year. Like I said, Reed, he's pretty boomer bust. So
he is.
Also, we forgot to mention. Oh, go ahead. No,
quit interrupting me. Captain Spock's in there talking about Puka. 65 route participation, 27% target shares, 8 outs, 12 yards. Has a career 29% target share when Kupp is healthy. That's amazing. I love that. Good stat.
Absolutely.
Good stat there, Spock. Love it. Kelsey's in the chat. Good stuff. Took an L this week. Bisco says against the last place team by 13. He's 6-2 now. Should have played McConkey over Amari. Did Matt tell you that? Probably did.
Yeah, he probably did. He probably did. So we forgot to mention beginning of the show, in honor of Halloween coming up on Thursday, we want to know, what is your stud and dud Halloween candy? Your favorite and least favorite. For me, my favorite is Kit Kats. They're even better if you throw them in the freezer. And I absolutely despise black licorice. It's so gross.
It's no good. I got to go with peanut M&Ms for my favorite. It's my favorite candy anyway, but I'll take them I'll eat 8 of those little bags of Halloween things in one setting because, I have a problem. Least favorite's got to be like Milk Duds. Kind of
Milk Duds.
Appropriate since you said stud and dud, but
look at you with the pun.
Captain Spock's 8-0. We got Kevin. How you doing, man? Welcome to the show. Who you got rest of season? Tua, Caleb, or Geno Smith? All good options. I really like all those. I'm leaning Tua, but
I think Tua has the highest ceiling of the three just because of the offense and the talent there. But up until this point, Geno Smith has been a rock solid QB1.
Yep. Was he 5?
Something like that.
I didn't pull up my windows today. I forgot.
Way to go, buddy.
I'm slacking, folks. Sorry.
Where in the hell is
he? Why is it not showing?
He's QB 10 right now.
Oh yeah, QB 10. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean he's been an every week starter. He had a down week last week. I mean the whole team just kind of shit the bed. So
yeah, Tua for ceiling, Geno for floor.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Caleb, it's just too inconsistent there. Yeah, he had a couple good games before the bye, and then it all fell apart this past week. So Supersonic says Reese's Cups fave, Heath Bar, blah. Yeah, don't like that. Dubo likes Snickers. Good stuff. All right.
Nice.
Next guy. The top 3 fantasy QBs over the past 4 weeks are Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, and wait for it, Bo Nix. He's available in 3 quarter of leagues, and he has a matchup this weekend versus Baltimore, who Jameis Winston just torched. Matt, I know you're high on him. What do you got?
Well, he's coming off his best game as a pro, 28 of 37 for 284 and 3. And he also had 5 carries for 4 yards and a rushing touchdown against Carolina. Obviously, he's not going to play Carolina every week. It'd be nice if he could. But that marks 3 out of 4 games where he has 2 or more passing touchdowns. And he has 149 rushing yards and another 2 touchdowns on the ground. That's 3 top 10 finishes in the last 4 weeks. But it's not all amazing, right? Only he, Jacoby Brissett, and Deshaun Watson are the only qualified QBs averaging less than 6 yards per attempt on the season. But I think we're really starting to see all the experience he had in college pay off as the season goes on. I do like the matchup this week at Baltimore, who have allowed the 3rd most points to opposing QBs, and they are the only team to allow over 300 passing yards per game to opposing quarterbacks on average. They don't really allow squat on the ground, though, and to running backs or anybody else. I still think, though, there's a decent chance he could, end up with at least a few yards rushing, and maybe, you get lucky if he's down, if he runs it down near the end zone. He's averaged 7 rush attempts per game since week 4. They get the Chiefs after that. Not so hot on that matchup, but he is building chemistry with Cortland Sutton, who has 100 yards or a touchdown in 3 of his last 4 games. And we're starting to see hints of emergence from Troy Franklin and Devon Vele as well. He also has the benefit of a good defense that's really going to help keep them in games. We're at the halfway point, at least in the fantasy season. He's getting more comfortable. He's got a fantastic coach there in Sean Payton. I think the dude is for real. I think the matchup this week is fantastic. Do I think he's going to be a top 2 or 3 finish? No, probably not. But I think he'll be a rock solid QB1 this week for sure.
Yeah, he's impressing for sure. He's just the 6th quarterback to throw 8 passing touchdowns and run for 4 in his first 8 NFL games, joining Dak, Robert Griffin, Cam Newton, Dante Culpepper, Matt, from a little bit back, and then way back to like the 40s, 50s, Otto Graham as well. Thought that was interesting. And in some good company there.
Hell yeah, he is. I think that was a good pick. We got another quarterback for you, and we talked about him a little bit last week, and all he did was go out and throw for 300 yards and torch the aforementioned Baltimore Ravens defense. Kyle, what do you think of Jameis Winston?
Yeah, I like him. There's some concerns, though, that are beyond his control, but he really gave the Cleveland offense a gigantic spark this past week. It was his first start of the season. He was 27 of 41, 334 yards. That was the most thrown by any quarterback in week 8, by the way. 3 touchdowns, no picks, although a couple could have been picks for sure, and he did fumble once as well. The 3 passing touchdowns, all 20 yards or more. Love that. Throwing the ball down the field. It's Jameis time. YOLO time. So it came against that depleted secondary there. Baltimore was already horrible, but I know Marlon Humphrey was out. I think their other cornerback was out as well. But it was still impressive for Jameis, especially since he faced the 5th highest blitz rate from the Ravens in week 8. It was the first time the Browns had anybody pass for over 300 yards, and Winston always has had a big arm and a willingness to sling it down the field and take some chances. In week 8, he had the 9th best passer rating. He had the 5th best pass EPA. And, he's a swing for the fences type of option. He can be used when the Browns have a favorable matchup. Will he remain aggressive this week against a pretty damn good Chargers defense? We'll see. Can he overcome the brutal late season schedule? 6 of his next 8 games are teams that are 11th or better in fantasy points allowed per game to quarterbacks. The Chargers, the New Orleans, Pittsburgh twice, and Denver and the Dolphins. I think the way that he plays the game, that big play nature of his, mixed with likely negative game scripts and garbage time points, I think he could be a good fantasy option moving forward. I think he's going to be pretty coveted this week by a lot of owners. Cleveland has their bye week next week, so you're probably not going to be able to wait till week 11 to grab him. The time to do it is now.
For sure. And with him, there's going to be some volatility. He's going to turn the ball over. Look, he's going to go out there. He's a YOLO quarterback. He's going to sling it. But every league is a little bit different, right? Some leagues punish turnovers more than others. I know you and I are in a league where you get punished for interceptions and pick sixes and all this other stuff. So you need to take your specific league scoring into account.
Agreed.
But in a vacuum, like Jameis Winston, absolutely. He's thrown for 5,000 yards. He's thrown for 30 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want that?
Exactly. See Captain Spock. I didn't even know they didn't make 100-gram bars anymore. I did like those as well. Those are pretty damn good. And Kelsey, nerds for the nerd. Nice. I was just saying I like the nerds that are covered, the gummy covered nerds.
Yes.
Those are delicious. Very,
yes,
very
they
good.
are. Duwell brought up something interesting too that we're dealing with. AR got benched.
Yeah.
And for good reason. Like, you can't come out on third down because you're tired as the quarterback of an NFL team. Joe Flacco obviously gives them a better chance to win. We're going to get, it's not as bad as it was before. I was kind of shitty when they moved that Colts Vikings game to Sunday night because who wants to see that? But now that Flacco's in there, we'll see.
Yeah,
that might be pretty damn good.
That's just amazing. I can't, you're going to lose the locker room. I can't believe that guy. It's a difference between thinking I'm tired, but you went out and said it, and that's just not a good look. And a friend of ours mentioned that's like Phil Jackson telling Michael Jordan to go out there and take this last shot. We really need you to win the game. And Jordan says, nah, I'm tired, and goes and sits down. I mean, come the fuck on.
Yeah, kind of like Scottie Pippen did.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. He did. Let's see where we at here. While the optimism of the Cowboys offense is still pretty suspect, their wide receivers have the fourth best remaining schedule of the fantasy season. If you have room, consider grabbing and stashing Jalen Tolbert. What do you think, Matt?
Look, he's got at least one more game as a team's wide receiver too, while Brandon Cooks is out. I've not really heard anything on his return, but he's got to miss at least 4 in 3 games without Cooks. He's got 18 targets, 14 grabs, 174 yards, and he's found the end zone once. That's good for wide receiver 30 and points per game. It's not amazing, but it's a legit wide receiver 3. He gets a Falcons defense that allows the 6th most points to wide receivers on the season and has the league's worst pass rush, which is crazy to me. Likely doesn't have the upside of some of the other wide receivers we'll talk about, but he does look to have a pretty solid floor. Among 152 qualified pass catchers, he ranks 6th in catch rate over expected, and his 13.2 receiving EPA is in the top 3rd. He also ranks 21st in air yards per target, so he's not just getting the ball around the line. Dak is spreading the ball around quite a bit. He targeted 8 different pass catchers in last week's loss to the 49ers. They only had 3 targets. He caught all of them, and his 44 yards was 2nd on the team. He's got 5 red zone targets in that span too, tied for 36 with a bunch of other dudes. And there's another 18 players tied with 6. So, there's a lot of guys in that range. He has good to great matchups the rest of the season. He doesn't really do much after the catch though, and that may limit his upside. I still think he's a solid wide receiver 3 flex play from here on out. And obviously he's going to have a little bit more value while Brandon Cooks is out. When Cooks does come back, I could see his value taking a hit. We talked about it a little bit last week, about how Dallas, after the bye last year, they went super pass heavy, and we saw what CD did coming out of the bye this year. Obviously Tolbert isn't CD, but Dak seemed to have a renewed focus. There is no running game to speak of there, really. So they're going to have to be pass heavy the rest of the way. I would take a chance on him if I'm really in need as a means to diversify. I was just trying to think of somebody to compare him to, but nothing really jumped out. So I don't even know why I said anything. But still, he's available in around 80% of leagues. If you're in a jam, there's a good chance he can go out there and get you 8 or 9 fantasy points.
Yeah, as a young wide receiver, I think he's going to continue to get better over the rest of the season. I don't mind it. Get some depth on your thing. That offense, I think, will get cracking here eventually. I hope. So we'll see.
You would think. So Devontae Adams is now gone from the Raiders. You've got Jacoby Myers, presumably as their wide receiver one. I think everybody kind of understands at this point that Brock Bowers is the primary pass target there in that offense. But we shouldn't sleep on Trey Tucker, should we?
No, probably not. Good depth option as well. He's now number 2 role there since since Jacoby Myers came back from his injury. The dude saw just 3 targets this week, caught 2 for 26 yards, and he did rush the ball 1 time for a handful of yards, 7 yards, something like that. He did lead the wide receiver position group in a 91% offensive snap share. I like that. But Jacoby Myers, and even DJ Turner provided much more fantasy value as they combined for 10 receptions on 11 targets, 80 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And let's be honest, it was a brutal matchup against one of the league's best defenses in Kansas City, with Las Vegas having just 158 yards of offense outside of that late garbage time touchdown drive. Tucker hasn't caught more than 3 passes in a game since week 4, and he hasn't scored a touchdown since week 3. And, really, no matter who the QB is there for the Raiders, they're going to struggle to manage 3 fantasy relevant pass catchers there, as Brock Bowers commands a significant share of targets. Not exactly thrilling, right? However, the Raiders, best schedule for wide receivers, playoff time, weeks 14 through 17 against Tampa Bay, Atlanta, Jacksonville, and New Orleans. Tucker has averaged more than 9 fantasy points per game since week 3, so there's a definite floor there for you that you can expect. The route participation's not bad at 93.4%. It's actually a percent higher than Jacoby Myers's. And out of the 60 wide receivers with at least 35 targets or more, the yak is great for Trey Tucker. He's 11th in yak per reception at 5.3 yards. That's some nice extra fantasy production. This is a grab and stash, right? If Myers or Bowers goes down for a significant time, Tucker could be a great asset to have on your bench in the fantasy playoffs. This dude, I don't know if you watched any of the preseason, but he was an absolute monster, albeit it was against some guys that are, back to swinging hammers or selling insurance. But if you have room, I'd park him deep on your bench.
Yeah, I think he's a decent ad, and really the appeal to him is the floor. Going to get you that consistent 8, 9 points, 10 points, whatever it may be. And we've said it before on here too. Look, the Raiders are not a good football team, but garbage time is our friend. And with somebody like Brock Bowers drawing a lot of attention, Jacoby Myers has shown in the past that he can be a good wide receiver. That's when opportunity comes for people like Trey Tucker.
Absolutely. Next wide receiver, we got a lot of wide receivers today. Chargers QB Justin Herbert has now thrown for over 625 yards over the last 2 weeks, and his wide receiver lad McConkey has benefited, seeing at least 6 targets in all but 1 game. While he's owned in just about 2/3 of leagues, Matt, I gotta believe McConkey would be more highly owned if the Chargers didn't use a run-heavy scheme.
Yeah, I think so too, and a lot of that, is reputation based, right? Because of the coaching staff there. And we saw, what Harbaugh has done pretty much his entire coaching career, a very run heavy power run offense. But look, Ladd was the wide receiver 2 overall last week with over 29 points, caught all 6 of his targets for 111 yards. He found the end zone twice. You mentioned his target consistency. He's had at least 6 targets in each of his last 5 games and 6 of 7 overall. And he's had at least 9 PPR points in 4 of 7 and 3 of his last 4. His 23.9% target share is tied for 13th in the league with Stephon Diggs. Rest in peace to his season, and better than Tyreek Hill and Jamar Chase. He's also second in the NFL in yards per route run versus press man coverage at 5.3. What we haven't seen from him, though, are the big yardage totals, last week aside. His 376 yards ranks just 35th among wide receivers, and his 30 receptions has him tied for 27th. But what he's not is a catch and fall down kind of wide receiver. He's got 159 yards after the catch, which puts him just outside the top 20. 3 of his next 4 matchups are really good in terms of defenses versus wide receiver. And I remember talking in the preseason, and we weren't the only ones to say this, but he had a great chance to end up as the wide receiver 1 on the team. And here we are. He's a good route runner. Anytime you've got a rookie receiver that can show he is able to beat press coverage like that, it's a good thing. You can see the chemistry developing with him and Justin Herbert almost in real time. I think he's a wide receiver 2 rest of season. And he's shown he has that wide receiver 1 upside any given week. Now, with his ownership, yeah, he's owned in more leagues than what we would typically cover, but still he's available in almost 40% of leagues. And that is something that needs to be corrected.
I agree. 100%. Oops, sorry, bud.
All good. So the big news out of Buffalo was them getting Amari Cooper, and we kind of wondered how that would affect the rest of the offense. Well, at least preliminary effects, we're seeing rookie Keon Coleman really start to stand out.
Yeah, he's done. I've really liked him since Buffalo drafted him, and now he's coming into his own lately. He's delivered back-to-back wide receiver 2 performances over the past couple weeks, seeing 7 targets in each game, and that's with Amari Cooper in the mix. In week 8, he caught 5 of 7 for 70 yards and a tutty. On the year, his target share is a little lower than you like to see, 15.9. That's like 50-something among wide receivers on the year, but in the last 2 weeks, that's climbed to almost 22%, 5th best in that time frame. Among 65 wide receivers with 30-plus targets, according to PFF, Coleman ranks first in yards after contact per reception at 9 flat. That's excellent. Second in 18.9 yards per reception. He's tied for 16th in route participation. 12th in ADOT. It's 13.3. That's really damn good. 25th in receiving yards, and he has the best 29th best PFF receiving grade. Red zone targets. He's also seen 5 on the year, but 4 have came in the last 2 weeks. And he's seeing the most downfield looks too in the Bills offense. Do you know what that tells me? While there's a ton of competition on that team for targets, Josh Allen has no doubts about his trust level with Keon Coleman. I think they're definitely finding some chemistry there. They drafted the right fella. Matchups on deck for Buffalo. They're a pair of vulnerable defenses in Miami and on the road at Indianapolis. So Coleman is playable in the weeks ahead. Definitely startable. Put him in your lineups. I think he should be scooped up wherever available. Guy's young. He's 21. He's still learning, but he has the look of a rookie with being a big contributor in the years ahead. Arrow's pointing up.
It is, and we're getting we're at the point in the season where, just like with quarterbacks, we're starting to see some wide receivers start to get comfortable now, more comfortable in the offense, getting used to the speed of the game. And look, Amari Cooper, quite frankly, even at this stage in his career, still draws a ton of attention. And I had a feeling that Keon Coleman was going to benefit from that, and we're starting to see it now. As Amari Cooper gets mixed into the offense a little bit more, we'll see if this sticks up. But at the same time, like, you can't argue with what the results have been thus far.
Yep, agreed. Good stuff. Okay. Some big news today. If you roster Josh Downs, you are probably pretty effing happy today. Today, Anthony Richardson was demoted. It's Flacco time, baby. If you're not a holder of Josh Downs, listen to what Matt here has to say.
Yep, short version, if you don't have him, go get him. But I'll expand on that a little bit. He is the wide receiver 27 in points per game at 14.4. He is the wide receiver 22 in points per game since week 3. He did miss the first 2 weeks. He has just 2 games below 6 points and 4 games over 15 points. He's got at least 9 targets in 4 of his last 5 games with 3 touchdowns. And look, with news coming out today that Anthony Richardson's been benched for a nearly 40-year-old Joe Flacco, his stock is on the rise. In weeks 4 through 6, with Flacco at the helm, he was the wide receiver 5, averaging just under 20 points per game. He had 30 targets for a 27.4% target share, and 5 of those were red zone targets. And he's somebody who really excels in the short to intermediate parts of the field, but he'll sneak deep every now and then. We saw that on Sunday. He does have 4 targets deeper than 20 yards from the line, and he's caught half of them. The Colts have a tough matchup against the Vikings Sunday night, but I think he's got a good chance of being the hot read fairly often, and I could see a ton of targets against that blitz-happy team. I think at minimum, he's a high-end wide receiver 2 for as long as Flacco plays, with wide receiver 1 upside any given week. And it's also worth noting, like, Joe Flacco is also worth an ad if you're looking for a QB. They've got some good skill position talent there. The offensive line is solid. JT is a hell of a running back. This now makes Michael Pittman relevant again.
Thank God.
Like, that whole offense is up.
I was tired of seeing Pittman on my bench more than not. So I think Downs high-end flex option this week for sure, even against the Vikings. See that they can be beat. So, and he's had 3 touchdowns in the last 5 games. So
yeah,
he's making some house calls.
Hell yes, he is.
Got Kelsey. Should she dump Juwan Jennings and try and get Downs? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think those two are pretty close.
Well, Jennings is on bye, so
yeah, Jennings is on bye, and he's also 3rd option in the passing attack, maybe 4th when CMC comes back. Josh Downs, 2nd option. Yeah, I'd go ahead and do that and just take the chance that Flacco finishes out the year.
And yeah, they're on a bye, and all the reports so far say CMC's on track to return, but they also said that he was going to play the season, in training camp. So great communication there, San Francisco.
Yes, it is. So we talked about Amari Cooper leaving and the beneficiary there in Buffalo so far. But what about in Cleveland? Now, granted, this kind of coincided with Deshaun Watson being out and Jameis Winston coming in, but Cedric Tillman has looked like the man over the past couple of weeks.
And the first, 6 weeks of the season, he was not. He was their 4th in the pecking order. It means nothing in fantasy, but that changed, as you said, after the Amari Cooper trade. In week 7, Tillman was a clear starter, but still came off the field for 11 pass plays. Week 8, he played even a higher percentage of snaps and was off the field for just 3 passing plays. So what does that tell us? He has taken over Amari Cooper's role as the clear X receiver there and the primary deep threat on that team. Cedric has been the best PPR wide receiver in fantasy in week 7 and 8. Number 1, his 47 points are 6 more than the some dude in second, guy named Justin Jefferson. No big deal, right? He led Cleveland in receiving yards, touchdowns, fantasy points in week 8, 99 yards, caught 7 of 9, 2 tutties. That's now 9+ targets and 18+ PPR points in consecutive games. He had a 22% target share, 24% first read share. Both of those were second on the team behind slot receiver Elijah Moore, who himself is a decent waiver option as well in deeper leagues, but that is more of a stash and C. See what I did there? Mm-hmm. Worth noting, Tillman and Moore both ran fewer routes than Jerry Jeudy, but they had more primary reads, catches, yards, and more importantly, each had an end zone target, with Jeudy seeing zip, squat, nothing. God, I had so much hope for him. He's such a good route runner, and I just don't understand why he didn't become more. Anyway, topic for another day. Tillman also is clearly, in just a short amount of time, displaying some chemistry with Jameis Winston as well. I think that's going to take the Browns passing attack to new heights. It kind of already has this past week. Now the Browns don't get to play the Ravens and their awful pass defense every week. The Browns have by far the worst schedule for wide receivers over the rest of the season. In their final 8 games of the fantasy season, 6 are versus teams that are in the top 10 at preventing fantasy points to wide receivers, including the Chargers, the Broncos, the Chiefs, and the Steelers twice. I love his quality of play. It's very promising. There's also a chance he could disappear against much stronger defenses. But still, I think the target volume is going to be there. It's going to remain strong for Tillman, so don't overlook him as a valuable addition. If you left him on the wire last week, you're going to have to pay more this week. Yesterday's price is not today's price. He's a nice priority add with, wide receiver 2 upside.
I agree wholeheartedly. And of the players we've talked about today, he's my favorite.
Yeah,
quite frankly, I think he's the best of the bunch. So we got Bisco here, if I can get the mouse moving. McConkey, Myers, or Amari as his wide receiver 2 this week.
I think McConkey.
Think so?
He's seeing the volume over Myers and Amari.
He is. And let me pull up the schedule here real quick. Shame on me for not having it handy. Oh, Chargers get the Browns.
Yeah.
The Raiders get the Bengals, and the Bills get bent. Where in the hell is it?
I don't remember who they play.
Oh, they play the Dolphins. That's a good one. I could see Amari getting more acclimated to the offense and having a good game. It always just seems like the Bills shut down the Dolphins, though.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of I'm looking for points. You know what? I'm going to go McConkey. Let me go with the volume.
I think that's the right call there, man. Let's see. Captain, if people ask me what my costume is, I say, I'm the Halloweenie and you're a goblin.
There we go.
Love it. Augusto, welcome back to the show, man. Appreciate you stopping in. Running backs, Hall, Kamara, Chase Brown, Dobbins, Hunt, Chubb. That's a nice mix. Wide receivers, London, Neighbors, Ridley, DJ Jennings, and his tight end, Bowers, and TJ Hawkinson. What would you give to try and trade for McLaurin?
Well, I would try and move Deontay Johnson. I think him going to the Ravens is absolutely awful for his fantasy value. Damn.
I'd be even okay with, trying to Deontay, Chase Brown, even dangle Chubb. I don't know what kind of league this is, if it's a keeper, a redraft, or what.
Yeah, I would start probably with Deontay Johnson and Kareem Hunt. Hunt is somebody who is going to have an expiration date in theory on his productivity. And the volume is nice, but he's not been very efficient whatsoever. But the Chiefs don't really need that. He's helping them sustain drives while they deal with all the injuries. Ridley, I'd have no problem moving him either. Juwan Jennings, no problem moving him. I want to hold on to Hall. I want to hold on to Kamara, and I want to hold on to Dobbins. Getting an upgrade like McLaurin, I have no problem trading any one of those or including them in a package. I'd like to hold on to London and Neighbors if possible as well. But yeah, any one of Ridley, Johnson, Jennings, and Chase Brown, Hunt, and Chubb. Package a couple of them together and start there.
Bisco rubbing his hands, waiting for Nico. Captain agreed. I agreed as well.
I agree. I've got Nico in a league.
Yep. It's rough. Let's see. Kelsey, is T. Higgins playing this week?
I would assume so.
Know a hell of a lot more, tomorrow or Thursday when practice reports start rolling out. But consider day-to-day from Zach Taylor. Yesterday was mentioned. So with that quad injury. So we'll see. Time will tell. Check with us on Thursday because we'll have a little bit more info then. Flex pick, Javonte, Madison, Myers, or Amari Cooper.
Well, Javonte is out. I'm not going to start a running back against the Ravens if I can help it. Yep. Madison going against the Bengals or Jacoby Myers. I'm not sure how they are against running backs. Let me get that pulled up here real quick. I know that Cincinnati defense has struggled pretty much all season long. Where in the hell are they?
Cincinnati is 11th fewest points per game at 20.8 in PPR.
And in receiving their mid-pack, or Amari Cooper against the Dolphins. I have more faith in the Bills offense overall, and that's what I'm going to base that decision on. I'm going to go with Amari Cooper.
I agreed. And Bisco's commenting about our poll question. We were asking everyone about their favorite Halloween candy and their least favorite Halloween candy. He likes Skittles, Starburst, and Reese's. Give out candy corn. It's just rude. Yeah, that stuff's disgusting. I don't like it. Now, Reese's peanut butter cups, Reese's Pieces. I love those too. God, those are good.
Skittles, I really like. I don't like the lemon ones, and I dump out the package and I separate them by color. I throw away the yellow, and then I eat them in order of least favorite to most favorite.
So red.
I alternate between red and purple last. I wish they would bring back the sour apple and get rid of the lime, but nobody cares what I think.
That's what I do with Starbursts. I love the reds and the pink Starburst and not so much of the other ones.
Oh, dude, red is the best candy flavor ever.
It is for sure. All right. Taysom Hill blows up in fantasy about 3 times a season because he can pass, he can catch, and he can run, baby. He already had one outburst in week 4. Now Hill gets a matchup against the Panthers, who can't defend the pass nor defend the run. Could this be one of those blow-up weeks?
I think it's possible. I just want to throw it out there. Like, I can't stand Taysom Hill, and it makes complete sense to me that there was a Charmin ad on his Pro Football Reference page when I was researching him, because the Saints offense has been shit lately. And it's really mind-blowing to me that he'll get quarterback and tight end eligibility because he takes a few snaps. But somebody like Debo can't get wide receiver and running back eligibility, even though he lines up in the backfield and takes handoffs. It's a bullshit double standard. But the dude does do everything. He gets used at the goal line pretty frequently as well. And he's good for you kind of hit on it, a 3 to 4 game stretch every season where he scores 15 to 20 points per week. He hasn't had it yet. Now he has missed some time due to injury as well. Thinking of him strictly as a tight end, the matchup is great. The Panthers allow the 3rd most points to tight ends and the most red zone points. And he gets the Falcons the week after, who are bottom 3rd against the position as well. Derek Carr, it's looking like he's going to be back this week, so the offense should perform better than they have with Spencer Rattler. Obviously, Rashid Shaheed is gone for the year, but they did get Chris Olave back from concussion. I think Hill is going to be more involved, and with just the unmitigated disaster that tight end has been this year outside the top couple of dudes. If you're somebody who, if you're somebody who's starting, Dalton Schultz, or you're streaming tight ends, throw him in the mix. If you can catch him at the start of his hot streak, chances are you've got a couple weeks of good play from him. His next couple matchups, you couldn't really ask for much better. Mm-hmm. And, the Saints season isn't completely toast, but they got to turn some shit around if they plan on doing anything.
Yeah, I wonder, Condre Miller got hurt hamstring. I believe he came out of the game against the Chargers. And, if he's unavailable to go, it should open some more rushing for Taysom Hill as well. And I think the floor should be higher when David Carr comes back as well. And I think he really, as far as tight ends go, have a potential for huge games is larger than the vast majority of the other tight ends in the league. So good grab. Definitely a good grab. So you'll notice, no, I don't. You'll notice we did not have any running backs. That's because we talked at the early show. They're pretty much all handcuffs. You want to look at the upcoming opponents, positive trends, and gauge which, team leading running back is maybe what you think is most likely to get hurt, and pick that guy and stash him pretty much. So since Stephon Diggs is now out for the season with a torn ACL, you got Debo and Pickens on bye. Here's a couple more wide receivers real quick. The Xaviers, if you will. First up, Diggs' teammate, Xavier Hutchinson. I think I got it there. Those in deeper leagues, I don't think should overlook him. It's important to know that Hutchinson focused on the X receiver role during the preseason, and boy, do the Texans need one this week. He only saw 10 targets, caught five of them for 63 yards on the season, but that's about to change at least in week 9 or longer, depending on when Nico returns. He is eligible to come back week 10. So, I think, you're going to look for Tank Dell to see the most wide receiver targets this weekend, but I think Hutchinson will not be very far behind. Nice increased role this week. There's a short week, Thursday against the Jets. I like him even in a tough matchup if you're desperate in deeper leagues. And one more, another Xavier. Doesn't one of them did not pronounce the X, Matt? Is it one of these fellas?
No, it's
another Worthy.
Yeah, he's Xavier worthy, and usually everyone else is just Xavier.
Xavier, yeah. So Legette, he's a rookie. He's managed only 16 catches on 134 yards on 25 targets, but in the last 5 games, but has gotten in the end zone 3 out of the last 5. And today, we mentioned it, I think, Deontay Johnson was traded to the Ravens. That opens up a huge target share void, about 23%. This is all about next man up. So Legette was second on the team in target share. Now he's first. He's second in red zone targets. Now he's first, second in receiving and targets too. Now he's first in all of those. So I like him only if Andy Dalton is back this week. We're still unsure of that, where his sprained thumb is at. So, I wouldn't start him if Bryce Young's behind center, but another deep league bonus ad.
Sweet.
We
gave you shit ton of wide receivers this week.
Well, that's what you really
any of
need.
You out there need them, and you throw up your hands later in the week and say there's nobody. Look, we tried. We can lead you to water. We can't make you drink.
Listener league results real fast. I won. Lockett won. Oh, Matt lost again in the battle of. Oh, you're 3-5, Matt. That's too bad. Big shout out to Dubo winning again. Guy has started 0-1, and he's rattled off 7 straight in a row. That's impressive. He is leading the league in the number 1 spot there, looking to get that bye. So, Matt's in 6th. I'm in 4th. We're all in playoff contention. Gotta love it.
I'll be there. Don't you worry about that.
I know you will there, bud. I know you will. Captain Spock, if you have Ingram, Kirk injury is good. Ingram has a 25% target share without Kirk in his 6 games without Kirk last year. He led all tight ends in scoring. You are right on there, Captain. I love that as well. I roster him in my home league as a guy I contracted last year for cheap, $6 or something like that. I'm glad he's starting to come around there.
Oh yeah, he's gonna eat.
Yep. Heck yeah. Doing with Vikings too. Yeah, you got 3 to 5 Vikings, even a defense maybe. And Kelsey says congrats. Let's see. Jack House, how you doing? Welcome back. Is Ladd a solid replacement for Diggs?
Absolutely, he is.
Yep.
Absolutely.
KJ Frederick, welcome back. Who is the better wide receiver play for this week? Jalen McMillan versus the Chiefs or Cedric Tillman versus Denver in a full PPR?
Oh boy, that's a tough one.
It is. It certainly is. Wait a minute. I thought the Browns played Chargers. Yeah, they play the Chargers.
Yeah.
So not
they
Denver.
do. That's right.
So Tillman's the way to go, you think?
Yeah, I think so. That Chiefs defense is playing fantastic right now. Pretty much against every position. I understand the Chargers pass defense is pretty damn good. But Tillman, I mean, he's got a nice draft pedigree. He's playing that role. Obviously, you can see the chemistry there with he and Jameis. I'm going to roll with Tillman there.
Yeah, I like it. Bisco back with another one. Josh Downs versus Tillman rest of season. Yeah, that really, I guess it depends for me rest of season, because how long are they going to go with Flacco, and how much time are they going to give AR to learn some more stuff to the side and those type of things?
Yeah, absolutely. That's really the determining factor. The team come out and they say, oh, we're not giving up on AR, blah, 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 blah. You got to say that. you're not just going to say like, we're done with this guy. We gave him 10 games and just said, screw it. He ain't got it. Tillman is going to be, I think, even more so than Njoku, is going to be the primary pass catching option in that offense there in Cleveland. I see a greater chance of Jameis finishing the year as the starter than I do with Joe Flacco. And just thinking long term, I'm going to take Tillman.
Okay. And a little bit of piggybacking on that with Tyler Sperry's question. Welcome back to the show. Tillman, Coleman, Downs, or Tank Dell? Pick 2.
Ooh, Tillman's in for me. Damn.
Ooh.
I want to say Tank Dell.
I do too.
This is not
I do
the
as
week.
well. I worry about him. He mostly plays in the slot, and they need somebody. I think they'll go outside a lot.
I do think he long term is going to benefit from the Diggs injury and get back to how they were using him last year, more down the field, as opposed, this year he's working a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. For this week, I'm going to go with Tillman and Downs, though.
Yeah. And Tyler says Houston plays the Jets on Thursday. Yep. Yeah, good call. Yep. Sauce or DJ Reed, because I think he's back healthy and good to go. He's also a great corner.
Yeah, that's even worse news for them.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Hang around here for just a sec, see if there's any more questions. I think Matt's got a pee or something. He's getting antsy. I don't know, but give us that like and subscribe. Smash that like button. We're on the march to 100 subscribers after, not abandoning the baseball channel, but that has most of our subscribers over there with 300 some, so almost 400. Sure. But so we're trying to grow this channel. We will be back this Thursday, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll preview week 9 a bit, have a bunch of starts and sits for you. And of course, as always, take all your questions live. If you celebrate, have a safe and happy Halloween. If we don't see you Thursday, stay stoned, everyone. Have a great night.
Kelsey's on my shit list.